into true frequency.
We are TFR.
True Frequency Radio.
On the weekday, you can see the signs, They wear the skies. Look into my
All right, welcome back. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. I apologize for not telling the YouTube audience that we were switching channels and going back to TFR. But I'm sure if you found it. So appreciate you guys joining us. Hello to everyone in the chat. I forgot to say that when we opened up. Thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate it so much. As always, we are here with Chris from Red Philosophy. Chris, thank you for joining us for another segment. But yeah, I would love your take on these National Geographic salt experiments that you talked about recently.
Yeah. I mean, it's humiliating. For the Globers, it was terribly done. Piss poor arguments as usual. They said Aristotle said ships disappear bottom up. According to my research, there's no place anywhere that Aristotle said ships disappear bottom up. Apparently, actually, it's kind of hard. Anybody who said that. But I think it might have been Ptolemy said a few hundred years after Aristotle. But National Geographic got that basic factoid wrong, so apparently. Of a proof that we live on a globe. And that was just one part. So the National Geographic documentary, it goes on to say, first of all, they excluded the white helium weather balloon experiment, which, I saw on your channel like 6 months ago, Jeran.
Right. You
kind of did a whole video on it and how there was footage of flat earthers saying we can see the balloons, but you're not supposed to see it because they should be hitting by Earth curve. They excluded that entire part from the Nat Geo hit piece. Right. So it's just more obvious like deception, distortion, maneuvering, and just blatant Glober, just ignorance.
And this is why I think they're in trouble when it comes to these videos. And unless they censor Flat Earth like they've threatened to do, they're in big trouble, because if they keep putting out these pieces that are clearly propaganda, that are clearly incorrect, that are unscientific or pseudoscientific, they've got a team of people that is ready to pounce on it. And that includes me and many others, you and tons of other channels that are just ready to expose exactly what they're doing to children and exactly what they're doing to the general public at large. So for me, they are going to run out of options pretty soon. And yeah, this might backfire, but at the same time, I don't know what else they're going to do besides say they have to censor these videos.
Yeah, Jeran, the big piece that they did a while ago with we're normal people, and they had the scientists on. You tore them apart. Everybody was sending that video to me, trolls and friends.
You're talking about the National Geographic Genius.
Yeah, that one. But what was the name of your video for anyone that wants to find it? Because that you just tore it apart. Anybody that watches that has an ounce of truth in them will see that National Geographic is being 100% deceptive.
Yeah, I think the video is called Pure BS.
Yeah, that's it.
PBS. Yeah, because it's just such nonsense. And that's the thing that, the reason I do what I do is simply because I can tell that they're hiding these things and that they're setting one thing forward but not giving the other side. And so I just want to be that person to come along and say, hey, people, there's another side to this story. It's not so cut and dry as they say. And again, I'm one of those people, and I'm sure Chris would include himself in that, and same with Dave, that I wish the Earth was a ball. It would really make everything a lot easier if I could just go back to that belief system and go back to everything I was taught and just bank on it and basically take a blue pill. But I know that that's not possible. And at this point, 4 years down the road, I just don't foresee any evidence coming forward that's going to change my mind at this point, because where is it already? Now I'm not saying that there won't be evidence at some point, but my whole thing, and a lot of people say, oh, Jeran, your channel, you would never admit that the Earth's a ball if you found out. And I'm like, dude, I definitely would admit it, but here's the problem. As soon as I admit it, I better have some damn evidence to show people why I'm changing my mind after the last 4 years. The problem is, where's that evidence? Where am I going to find that? So if it ever shows up, hey, I'll be the first one to show everybody. I'll be excited to show them. Guys, finally, we have proof that the Earth's a sphere. Here you go. The problem is that I've been looking for 4 years. I've been listening to shows and doing the research to find out, and all I can find is a bunch of men with a worldview that have completely altered the direction of science. Science now is pseudoscience, but it's taught as real science, and that's the problem.
Yeah, you know how many people, I've gotten weird stares from, even freaking close family members who, when they first started hearing me talking about this flat Earth stuff, they just completely went cold and silent, because it's a tough pill to swallow. And you said that if it was a globe, you'd be glad, and in many ways I would be too. I mean, I've made family members angry. We've got into big arguments about it.
We all know.
My dad is no, I'm serious. My dad is he's almost getting angry at me. He's like, you're losing your mind, Chris. And I'm like, man, you watched too much Star Trek when you grew up, man.
Snooze.
Or not enough.
So I don't want to make family members uncomfortable, and I don't, it's just, I'd rather just be a globe and that's it.
Chris, what is your response when somebody that is hearing about it for the first time go, you guys just want to feel special, like more than scientists? What is your wordsmithing of that?
It's just stupid. there's
There you go. That's
there's
just
nothing
stupid.
to say. It's just dumb.
Can I use that?
Yes, you can use that.
I think I saw this morning in your live stream, somebody in the chat said, you're just doing this for money. That's my favorite one.
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
You're a flat earther for money. That's what it is.
Yeah, you're gonna get rich off that.
Yeah.
Real rich.
I only need 5,000 more people to buy my app to break even.
All right. Well, that's not bad. At least you're getting closer. Maybe one day you'll break even and we can all celebrate, Dave. You'll have to buy. Yeah. And Dave was talking about that National Geographic piece with basically them sending out some boat a certain distance and trying to do a laser, and again, not leveling the laser. And there's so many things wrong with it. And so, yeah, check out that video, because it doesn't surprise me anymore when I see National Geographic, and I have to keep pointing out to people that National Geographic is now part of Disney. Disney's buying up all your favorite channels, Discovery Network, History Channel. They're all owned by Disney. So,
I heard Disney bought NASA.
I wouldn't. I think NASA owns Disney, really. No, I wouldn't doubt that in the least bit. And they've partnered many times before because they're both selling imagination.
You guys ever been to Tomorrowland in the Magic Kingdom in Disney World in Florida? You ever been to the Tomorrowland part of the Magic Kingdom?
No,
Proud to say I've never been to Disney.
Yeah. It's a whole section of the park dedicated to space propaganda. It's fascinating. You guys should look into it, but it's just nothing but space propaganda. I mean, have you guys heard of the ride Space Mountain?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this popular ride. You basically, it's all futuristic, and there's this other ride where it's more like a presentation, and it's really old. So it's like a video from God knows how many decades ago, and you see Walt Disney. It's just pure space propaganda. It's Walt Disney, and you're sitting in a theater, and Walt Disney's talking about, yes, in the future, we're going to have all these inventions, and we're going to be going to space, and we're going to have colonies on all these planets, and it's like the whole thing is just pure 100% space propaganda. And I got to look into Tomorrowland, because I haven't been to that thing in a while, but I'm pretty sure if I were to look at it again with fresh eyes, that would be like, you know what, there's a lot going on here. It's been there for like 50 years, brainwashing, people who go to Disneyland.
Yeah, that's the thing. People love space so much, and that's the hardest thing for them to kick, is that they've just got this adoration for everything but the Earth, right?
It's escapism.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, and that's
It's
why
it's like spiritual escapism, existential escapism, in my view.
No, that's perfectly said. Yeah, and totally what you said about it being like a physicalist. That's what they want to believe. And so, of course, like I've talked about before, these scientists who came up with these proofs, and all they're doing is fitting it into their worldview. Their worldview is that the Earth can't possibly be the center of the universe. So every observation, everything that they do, even if it matches the Earth being the center, they'll just redesign it, restructure it, tweak it a little bit, and then put it out there for people, and people love it. There's people out there that just love space because it gives them an excuse for being an atheist. It's all part of the same idea.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day, I'm like, why didn't they choose a cube Earth or a triangular prism Earth? And I'm like, well, the sphere Earth is genius, because a sphere, imagine if they told us we lived on a cube, which is, it's just as absurd as thinking we live on a sphere. But if they told us we live on a cube, then there would eventually be some point where you can traverse the Earth where you would get to a very clear and definitive edge along one side of the cube. There'd be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It would be right there. Holy crap, I'm about to go over the other side of the cube, but I'm sure gravity will pull me to that side and keep me locked in place. So I'm like, why did they put us on a cube? And I'm like, oh, well, a sphere makes perfect sense, because a sphere, there is no edge. It's so gradual enough in its shape that as long as the sphere is big enough, you can just enough plausible deniability that you can be like, well, it's so big that it kind of looks flat on a local scale. But because it's a gradual, there's no definitive edge to a sphere, and it's perfectly gradual all the way around in its shape, you'll never get to a point where you can be like, oh, well, that's what I just reached the edge of the friggin' of the sphere shape. I just got to this little point here, and it's obvious and it's definitive. No, it's a constant smooth surface with no specifically defining feature that will tick you off to what you're actually living on. So I think there's something, the spheres are a very fascinating object. Michael Crichton, the guy who wrote the book Jurassic Park and a bunch of other classics, he wrote a book called Sphere, which eventually became a movie. And I have to go back and watch that and read the book again, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff in there that I never noticed before about spheres. But yeah, the sphere is a fascinating, almost mysterious and beautiful shape, but it's very unique in what it is.
Yeah, especially, and if you teach everybody that that feeling, that downward force that you feel, or the downward force that keeps us on Earth, if you tell everybody that that's pulling to the center of a ball, but the ball is so big that you can't see it, it's just baffling to people, because if you take a level and go anywhere on the Earth, it's always going to be level. And so it's very confusing to people, and they just believe this whole idea of gravity. And like you said, the Cavendish experiment is probably one of the biggest jokes in scientific history.
Yep, absolutely.
And as is the speed of light determination and so many other things that are necessary for them to keep propagating this sphere. I mean, you need to have gravity. And that's why even when they say, oh, well, gravity doesn't work when you get to the outer stretches of the universe, or I'm sorry, the solar system, when you get to other stars and galaxies, that now gravity doesn't work anymore, but they have to hold on to it. If they were following the scientific method like we were all taught, when a test doesn't confirm something, then you throw that theory out. No, not them. What they do is when the tests don't confirm it, they just say, oh, well, there must be dark matter there. Can't see it, can't measure it, but it must be there. Dark energy must be there. And this is all because they have to hold on to the idea of gravity, because gravity makes the Earth a sphere.
It's such a joke, and it's funny because you were talking about earlier about what if Earth is all there is and there is no space. So it's kind of funny that the universe is comprised of like 99% this unobservable, undetectable, sort of amorphous dark matter, dark energy. It's like it's almost like they're admitting that outer space and the so-called rest of the universe doesn't exist by calling it dark matter and something that they can only see the byproducts of it, but they can't really identify what it is directly. It's almost like it's kind of like when there's a show on Netflix with Neil deGrasse Tyson years ago, and he's like, the universe is flat. I don't know if you guys have seen that clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson saying the universe is flat.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's almost like they tell you the lie right to your face, but in a slightly different way. So it's almost like a plausible deniability. Well, if it turns out in freaking 20 years, flat earthers win the debate and everybody becomes a flat earther, and they ask Neil, hey, Neil, why the hell were you telling us we lived on a globe? He's like, oh, well, technically I said the universe is flat. So technically I was saying that, you technically do live on a flat plane. So it's like they always tweak it. It's almost like this plausible deniability thing.
And they'll lie with we live in an enclosed system. There's no place to go.
Right.
Exactly.
Or every time they keep saying now, they'll no longer say sphere or ball. They always say round.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they've never lied to us about photographs of Earth. They always say pictures and images.
Exactly.
They
Right.
never use the word photograph.
They're photoshopped, right? Because they have to be. And all I know is I'm just going to use that one in the future. If anybody ever asks me, Jeran, well, what keeps the sun and moon above the flat Earth? I'll just say, well, it's dark matter. What are you talking about? And what are they going to?
It's refraction. It's refraction.
They're going to be like, well, what? How can you just say it? It's like, well, that's what you guys believe is 97% of the universe. So if you can believe that and it just be passed along in conversation and we're just supposed to gobble it up and be like, nom, dark matter, yummy. Well, then I'm just going to say that when you ask a question that I don't know the answer to either. I'll say, oh, it's dark matter keeping it up there. And that's allowed in scientific parlance. I don't know why it wouldn't be allowed in mine. So anyway, Dave, any other questions for our guest?
No, I appreciate you coming on. It was great to catch up with you, and keep doing what you're doing because I love it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
me too.
David. Appreciate it.
We got about 10 minutes left, but if you have any questions for us, first, before we forget and it gets too close to the break, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you, and if they want to donate to help you out, where they can find your Patreon and your PayPal?
Yeah, well,
And your
Patreon-
cool shirts.
And your cool shirts. I forgot about
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Like
Proud owner.
Neil deGrasse saying that shit's flat.
That stuff is flat.
Page has
Yeah.
the world is cat.
And the Earth is flat. Well, that was an older shirt before I became a little more on board with flat Earth. So that one's kind of discontinued almost because, funny enough, it doesn't even sell that much anymore because I think there's so many like flat earthers on my channel now that like before like 3, 4, 5 months ago, it was a lot of like people more on the fence but more globe. So the Earth is cat shirt, people like that one because it's kind of a silly troll. But Patreon's dead because they censored and banned everybody. So Jordan Peterson left Patreon, all these people left, Sam Harris left. So Patreon's dead. So I'm about ready to delete my Patreon's Joe. But yeah, just Red Pill Philosophy. You just type it into YouTube, it'll pop up. Hopefully it's not shadow banned. And Red Pill Philosophy. That's basically it, guys. Just find me on YouTube, Red Pill Philosophy.
Great. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and everybody. The links are in the description. There's a link to his PayPal, a link to his website, and the website you're still running now, right? Excuse me.
RedPillPhilosophy.com. Yeah.
Yeah. So check him out. We really do appreciate you having on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Sounds great. Thank you guys for having me.
Talk to you later.
Okay, Chris.
All right. Laters.
All right. Awesome. Let me make sure I take him off this call. Dave, go ahead, and why don't you plug your app that you need 5,000 more sales with?
And as we're going, I keep adding new features, which none of it's free, but I enjoy doing it because the app's getting better and better. As a matter of fact, there's a pending update for iOS, waiting for Apple to approve. I'm sure they'll approve it tomorrow, which has new backgrounds, the jump forward 3 months button, which helps you explain seasons better. A whole bunch of new backgrounds, and the 4 languages are implemented. So anyone that's in a Spanish, German, French, and Italian area, if your phone is in that language, the app will switch to that language automatically if you download the new update.
Very cool. Very cool app. So definitely check that out.
It's called the Flat. Wait, I didn't even say the name. The Flat Earth Sun and Moon Clock. Available on Apple and Android.
Very cool. Let's go to the phones real quick. We do have a call from Wendell, I believe. Wendell's the one who did the Monterey Bay observation across 13 and a half miles and saw the mirror observation. Wendell, is that you?
Yes, it is. Hey,
Wendell,
how's it
how
going,
are you?
Jeran?
Good.
Hey, Dave.
Hey,
Good. I wanted to say I really appreciated Chris putting that last part on the end of his video in the observation of his review of the Nat Geo video of the balloons on the street there. I was the one that actually took that video of Nathan Gonzalez coordinating, trying to get the cameras on the observation side to see over there.
Right.
So
When they
it was,
saw it from
that was
across the
just
water.
key.
We saw
And-
across the water and then said, well, they can't be seeing us. It's behind the curve. It's like, no, we're saying we're seeing you.
but they can't. That's the mentality.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
They make up things because it's their worldview, so therefore there has to be an answer. So they make it up.
Right, exactly. Well said. And again, I'll challenge Nat Geo as many times as possible to please come out and do this observation across the Monterey Bay with us. And when you see the reflection of the sun through the mirror, then I want to see how you spin that. And we know how you'll spin it. You just won't do any video about it. So it tells us whether or not Nat Geo is actually looking for truth or whether they're just peddling propaganda. Go ahead.
Exactly. You know, and I had actually the presence of mind in the moment to turn to the IIG guy and say, you know, hey, how high are we here? Is it 10 feet, 15 feet? And we took an altimeter out there later, and it's actually 13 feet to the pavement. So you add on another maybe 3 feet for the rope and 4 feet for the balloons, but still that's way under the 35 feet it should have been. So,
absolutely.
And then when we brought it up to IIG, it's like, look, shouldn't we have not been able to see the balloons here anyway? And it was talking to deer in headlights. They just gave us this blank stare. And, you know, so you're right. And I think that we've all learned a lesson now that whenever we get interviewed by the media, whether it be Nat Geo or some other, to have our own video at the same time to refute some of this stuff.
Absolutely. I couldn't recommend that more. I think Rob Skiba said it the other night when I was on his show. That he requires that if they're going to do an interview of him or anything, that he's going to record it. And again, I should have done the same thing out doing my tests, so I would be able to easily come back and say, look, they just placed something that happened in the middle of our, observations. They just placed it at the end of their movie as if that was some sort of proof. But again, I would love to have that evidence, and I don't have it because I thought they were recording it. But you learn your lesson, you move on. But now these observations that we are making, I say challenge these guys to get out there and film it, and they won't. I mean, they specifically showed up at the Salton Sea in the middle of summer, late, so that by the time they're doing these observations, the temperature was well over 100. And of course, you're in a place that's just like Death Valley. It's a bowl in the middle of California, one of the hottest areas in the world.
Exactly. And if you have any doubt whatsoever, you've got to put your own eyeballs on it. I mean, like Owen Benjamin, it's great watching him kind of squirm there, but at least he's honest about, approaching it. But he's got to put his own eyeballs on it if he ever wants to get anywhere with it,
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, you have to see the stuff, even going back to my first experiment, which was only 4 miles, which seems like garbage at this point when I've seen so much else from further distances. But that was so huge for me when we saw that laser from across 4 miles, and there was supposed to be 10 feet of curve, and the camera was at like 2 feet, and we could see the laser even though we were shining it down at 6 inches above the waterline. And that was so huge for me you're right. Once you see it, and I know the same would go for you and Nathan and those guys, once you've gone out and seen it yourself, you can never not be a flat earther now. I mean, you've already seen, I don't know how else to say it. It's like you've already seen that the earth is flat. So how do you become a globe earther? Well, somebody needs to show some sort of test or experiment to show us that things that are behind curves can be bent up and then shown. And again, I've described a heliograph many times, but that's how heliographs work, that you must have line of sight to see the mirror, which is reflecting the sun. You can't have bending of the mirror and placing it up at the horizon line. It just doesn't make any sense. And the observation you guys did, I don't remember. I keep saying 30 and 40 feet. I'm not sure which one it is, but there's supposed to be a hump of water. Let's just call it 30 feet in between the camera and the person with the mirror at the water line. And clearly you saw right through this hump of water, which is purely impossible unless, of course, the Earth is not the globe that we've been taught. So
it was amazing, definitely. And I do look forward to going back out there with you before it starts heating up again. So we'll get that done, definitely.
Sure, yeah, that's the plan. Is we are going to go back out there, Nathan, myself, Wendell, and I'm sure Sydney will be there, whoever else wants to come out. and to do that observation again, and we want to go a little bit further. The hard part, and just so people recognize how difficult this is I've actually gone out and tried to do this experiment before, and it's incredibly difficult to figure out what you're looking at. Now, what they did was a very smart thing. They went and stationed Sydney right in front of the smokestacks in Moss Landing, and then went over to Lover's Point in Pacific Grove. And this way they were able to look directly at those smokestacks, and they were able to immediately see exactly what they were looking for. So we want to go back there and do it again. We want to stretch this observation out a little bit, but the hard part becomes locating exactly where to do it. But we've been in talks about that, and we will continue, and we're going to have some P900s, some P1000s, and some converted P900s out there. Wendell, also tell people your channel just so they know, and also you have on your channel a walkthrough of how to do a P900 IR conversion, correct?
Correct. It's Flat Reality Earth Explorers. Yeah, we do have a step-by-step on how to convert your P900, as well as some of the original footage we shot at Salton Sea with the lasers and other mirror observations there as well.
Awesome. Any final words before we go to break?
You go from what you know to what you don't know. So we can't test how far the stars are away, how far the sun is away, but we can test what we can see here on the Earth. So I haven't seen a curve yet. I can't explain how the stars rotate around. I know that the Earth is stationary and flat, but go and test what you can test. So test the temperature of the moonlight. Why is it less than what it should be if it's reflecting the sunlight? Things like that. So just keep your eyes and ears open and network with other like-minded people that are just trying to find the truth.
Agree 100%. Wendell, it was nice meeting you in Denver, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for the call. And yeah, everybody listening, I couldn't agree with that more, and I'm sure David would say the same, that you need to get out and observe the Earth yourself. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Dave. Don't listen to Wendell. Don't listen to Jay Tolan Media. Get out there and do this observation yourself. But for now, don't go anywhere. We got another half hour of your phone calls here on Jeranism Monday Night Raw.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Anne, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death. This is Uncle Walt from the Ironworks. Josh, Corey, and I have chosen to look at life with no fear. No fear of the unknown. No fear of questions about the supposedly well-known. No fear of ridicule for thinking outside the familiar fool's lines. No fear of the boot on the neck of those refusing the party line. No fear of taking on those so convinced of their beliefs they would sooner drink the Kool-Aid than believe they've been fools made. In this world filled with me too, cattle think, can truth's protective layers be peeled back to show the tender, juicy pink? Are we all just grist for the mill? Souls sold against our will, or is that just how it feels? When you're filled to the rim with trivialities so fear-filled and grim, break clear of the fear. Right here, Tuesdays and Fridays at 2 a.m. on TFR. Josh and I and you will hammer out the impurities of technology-driven groupthink, fold in a dash of logic, and quench it all with a bit of absurdity. The Ironworks. Break clear of the fear.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR. Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We've got another half hour left. I want to remind people to watch Glowbusters Sundays at noon Pacific. That's on the Glowbusters channel. You missed a good show if you didn't see it yesterday. We had a 3.5 hour live stream. We had all the Glowbusters there, John, Eru, myself. Dave, what did you enjoy about the show? Anything special?
I loved the model that you guys found from the Glober. What's his name? Walter
Bislin.
Buzzins or Bislin. Yeah. So the guy was out to prove flat Earth couldn't work, and he basically just showed us exactly how the personal atmospheric dome works.
Right. Thanks. Shout out to Walter there. Thank you for that very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, the show was really good. I tried to do a condensed version or a summary version of my video. But, what was really weird is that video took off on view counts and then all of a sudden came to a screeching halt and has had like no views the last 2 days.
That clip, somebody broke it out, and I mirrored it and put it on the app today. So if you have the app, you can click the featured video, and that one will show you exactly how we see sunrise, moonrise, and stars cross the sky.
Beautiful, yeah. And before we get to the phone calls, I wanted to mention that the Crow 777 podcast, which is a huge podcast, one of the best. I can't really think of one that I would place anywhere near it or above it. That's Jason Lingren and Crow 777. They have shot a movie called Shoot the Moon, and Dave, go ahead and talk about that real quick.
Yeah, it's a groundbreaking movie. It really needs to get out there. And you guys were talking about it on Glowbusters yesterday. How much does it cost actually to make a movie? It does cost a good amount to get it into the festivals. There's a lot that has to be done, and he needs to raise, I think, about $20,000, somewhere around there. And they're over halfway, which is good. But anybody that can donate just a few bucks to that, it really goes a long way. And the way I always say, you'll buy a round of beers at a bar or something, or you'll buy somebody a coffee. Throw them $5 and see what happens. It's all good karma, as I think I pointed out last week. If you do it, it gives you. Oh no, I pointed out on the podcast with the Matt. If you do it, it gives you. It's like TSA approved to get to the gates of heaven.
Yeah, you said you get free heaven points, which is very nice.
Yeah.
Some of those. Where can they find that if they want to help donate to that? Is it at which site is it at?
It's you're putting me on the spot.
Shoot.
If you go to Crow's website, I'm sure it's there. But as I stall, I'm looking it up right now. It is. I
know there's all these funding sites. I'm not sure which one they used. But
yeah.
We'll find it for you. Let Dave search that out and find it. But yeah, if you don't listen to the Crow 777 podcast, and now Crow is also a member of True Frequency Radio, the very radio station that you're listening to now. He has a show, so you got to check that out as well. But he did so much good information, and he really has the same line of thinking that I do about this universe that we've all been taught, and does an excellent job of talking about it and having some great guests on his show. So definitely want to help them out if at all possible with their Shoot the Moon movie, which can be found
at it's at GoFundMe, and it's just GoFundMe Shoot the Moon.
Right. Okay. So GoFundMe, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
GoFundMe, and Crow 777, couldn't say that out. Crow 777 has had quite a few, or huge problems with censorship, as many of us have. But he's had some of the worst. So if you can help him out, please do.
And their goal is 19,600, and the good news is they're at almost 18,000. So just a few more donations is going to get them over the top. And that's just really good news to see that they're able to fund that movie. I'm really looking forward to seeing it myself.
Yeah, sounds awesome. I definitely agree. Let's go to the phones, and if you have a question for us, call in. We'll go to the first caller in the 905 area code. Ginger Sugar Bush 905. I
think he's calling to say he found a mirrored half sphere for me with the inside mirrored, because I cannot find it anywhere.
Really? He found it?
No, I'm just making it up.
Damn. But I just realized now why it's Ginger Sugar Bush 905. It took me only 2.5 years to figure.
You know what? I just got that after you said it.
I just realized it. As I said,
you always like area code 905. Oh, Ginger Sugar Bush. I've never put it together.
This shows how we must be flat earthers. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Now he's going to tell us that's just a coincidence.
Hi, guys.
That's not why it's 905.
Oh, it's not that? Okay, my bad.
It's got a quick question about the app, David.
Shoot.
Okay, you get like weather details and stuff, right?
Correct.
So is there any way to make like a null school knockoff to put over top so people can see the weather patterns over the flat Earth?
I actually mentioned that to Dave before. I told him how cool would that be, but the problem is it's people aren't able to redesign that site for whatever reason. He had it connected. The guy who built Null School, if people don't know what we're talking about, there was a website called earth.nullschool, Null school.com, and it used to have a flat Earth map, and that has been removed now as one of their maps because, of course, the flat Earth awakening has started, and people were starting to notice how much rhyme and reason went into all the weather patterns. And when you see it for the first time on a flat Earth map, you're like, wow, this actually makes sense, not like the globe model. But Dave, that would be pretty tough, yeah?
Yeah, we were looking at, putting some weather on there, but, you can only put so much on that small little screen. And, I had to make the moon bigger, because when I made it the same size as the sun, you couldn't really see the phases. So the app is not to scale. The Earth is not the size of your iPhone. It's bigger.
Really?
And yeah. And I made the moon so you can see it. So it's pleasing to look at. We are working on getting the moon to cycle in between the tropics, but that's actually a big move. One of the next things I'm doing, I'm making it so we can flip. You can have daytime at the top instead of the bottom if you prefer to see yourself that way. But people in the UK want it. People in the US don't. So I'm going to make that an option to flip your world upside down, but it's still flat.
All right. Any other questions, or is that it for tonight?
Oh, that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you very much.
Hey, take it
as
easy.
always.
Thanks.
Yes, and thank you to Ginger Sugarbush 905 for always carrying the second half of the show on YouTube. For those who want to stay tuned and chat, that's awesome. Dave, I just pulled out my app just to look at it real quick, and the picture that I have is the background. If people don't know, you can upload your own picture as a background. I uploaded the photograph. Do you remember when I was in Hobby Lobby and was just bored and was going around?
Oh, yeah.
I was putting all the words Flat Earth on everything that they have, all their little displays, because if you've ever been to Hobby Lobby, they've got like all these displays of letters just all over the store. And so I was gathering them and putting them on the floor and putting them next to their globe display, so it said Flat Earth. So the background on my Flat Earth app is the globe display that I have basically graffitied with Flat Earth.
And one thing we discovered just recently is you can gift the app. So if you're talking Flat Earth to somebody and you show them the app, or you don't show them the app, if you gift it to them and, with the agreement, hey, I'm going to buy this for you, $3, and you have to watch the video every day for a week or 2 weeks, whatever deal you can make. I think it's $3 well spent, and it helps support me. Okay, but you're actually doing something. You're not just giving me $3 because I don't get the $3, by the way. It's just an active way to kind of give people the information that will wake them up.
Now, let me ask you this, because I know for me, and we've talked about this before, but at the holidays, it was so much nicer to be able to pull out the app and show my family, who instead of just kind of shaking their head and moving along, all of a sudden looked at it and go, oh, okay, I get it now. And one of the things that we had teased that we were going to talk about that we never did was your meeting with your teacher. Were you able to pull out the app and show her the app?
I did. But she, again, she's a teacher. She's getting up there in her years, but she's still, totally with it. She just had a hard time really absorbing anything. But she did actually get a lot of the things I'm saying. She'd be like, uh-huh. She goes, yeah. And I'd see that she get it. She wasn't happy that I shot down her point. And then after a little while, I was like, I kind of have an answer for everything. It's kind of annoying, right? And she goes, yes, it really is.
Well, the app is so easy for me, at least, to explain the problem with circumnavigation, because you always hear everybody say circumnavigation proves the globe Earth. And that would be true if we had circumnavigation in all directions. And then you go look into it and you realize that, well, why is it that there's literally billions of people who have circumnavigated east-west, and 2 or 3 that claim to have gone north-south? There's a big problem with that, and the app shows you exactly why. It's because one of those circumnavigations is impossible, and the other one is quite possible. And so it seems to make a lot of sense on the flat Earth, but when you talk about the globe and the fact that no flights go over the South Pole at all, you start to realize why there's no north-south circumnavigation on the Earth.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I made it because I wanted it, and I'm glad people are getting it and enjoying it. And I really just hope, if I sell a ton of them, I can make the app even better. But it's a long way to go, and I'm hoping to break even.
That's the hope. And I think since you said you needed 5,000 more, we've had 2 downloads since, so now you're down to only needing 4,998. It's not bad.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's twice as many as I saw a few minutes ago.
Let's go to the phones. 765 area code. You're on with Jeranism on.
Wait, last word.
Oh, sorry.
Last word before the caller jumps on is the teacher. She is open-minded. She says it's really good to question things. Somebody has to do it, but at this point in life, I'm just not. I don't have the energy to do it. It's kind of the message she gave me, so that's okay. But what's really good is another teacher who from my middle school, who was the art teacher, who's on Facebook. He messaged me and he's like, "Hey, I'd really like to talk to you." So that's kind of exciting.
Very exciting.
I'm going to be talking to him. He's coming back in town next week, and we're going to get together. And hopefully, maybe he's a flat earther already, or maybe he's got some real questions.
Well, we have to be able to ask those questions, and if not, then that's just not science. And that's what I always talk about. What happened to the science that we were taught, where it's all about questioning and it's about asking questions. And I read a quote the other day. I'll read it real quick because it's short, by Carl Sagan, who said, "If we're not able to ask skeptical questions, to interrogate those who tell us that something is true, to be skeptical of those in authority, then we are up for grabs for the next charlatan, political or religious, who comes rambling along." Right. Now, of course, the funny part about that is that Carl Sagan is of course, science spokesman, so he leaves out of that conversation, well, what happens if we just simply are not able to interrogate and ask questions of those who tell us that things are scientifically true when we can prove that they're not? Pretty sad.
Yep. I love that quote.
All right, let's go back to the caller that I dumped and see if he's still there. You are 765. Who's this? Where are you
from? Name's Tanner from Indiana, right outside of Indianapolis.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for calling.
Yeah, what I always want to talk about for a minute, or ask a couple questions about, would be asteroids. I started to really think about this last night. Well, for one, I do plan on getting my own telescope so I can look at the lights in the sky and see for myself. But
Well, let me give
you
you
know, for years now,
let me give you one little warning on the telescope thing, because somebody actually bought me a telescope, and one day I was out there taking a look, and everything's great, but the eyepiece that sits on the little thing fell off onto the ground, and I picked up the eyepiece, and when I just picked it up and looked through it, everything that I saw was curved. So if I looked at my car through the eyepiece, the car was curved. If I looked at the house across the street, it was curved. And all of a sudden I said, what the hell is this about? So I went researching it to find out what is the reason for that. And the reason, according to these telescope makers, is because all the light coming in and then redirected with mirrors and everything that a telescope does is displaying what you see. And they say, oh, but it's slightly off. And so the eyepiece corrects it. But again, I'm like, well, so again, I just have to believe that you're correcting these lights in the sky, and then when you look through them, all of a sudden everything looks sphered. So yeah, I'd be careful on the telescope, but I definitely recommend people getting them and looking at them. Just make sure you know that the eyepiece of those makes things appear spherical. But go ahead.
Okay, but but anyway, for years now, I've been completely convinced on the global killers, your asteroids and your solar flares, you know what I mean? And just assuming, what they said, it's time for them again. And now that I'm completely content, if space ain't real, I'm good with that. I'd actually be happy about that, But so I'm sitting here, and I'm starting to look for videos on, people really looking at asteroids through telescopes. I'm not having a hard time finding anything that was convincing. So, I mean, is it just fear-based propaganda? Because, even a couple, 2 months ago, I would have said give NASA as much money as they need for their gravity tractor or their solar things, to deflect these asteroids. So I'm just curious, what your take is on that. Is it just fear-based propaganda just for money? I mean, is it that they want to be our savior or...
All right, I appreciate the phone call. Dave, do you have an answer for that? I mean, for me, I can't say that I've looked into them as much as I would like. I did kind of the cursory search like you're talking about to see videos of these things, or, I heard all about Halley's Comet, which will not come in our lifetime again, but it did come. I don't remember the year of that. It must have been the 80s or 90s. I don't remember.
It came and it was nothing.
Yeah.
It was like a tiny little, I don't even think I could see it.
No, and then even I can't find any video of it, or I can't find somebody showing video of it or their telescope shots or anything. And then you realize that right now they're launching things up there that are dazzling night displays. And so would it be impossible for them to send something through the sky so that people with a telescope looked at something and said, oh, there's Halley's Comet? No, not at all. That's actually easy for them. So that's how I look at them, and I'm not sure otherwise what they are or what they could be. But, I'm assuming that things are up there and flying around, and where they're coming from, I don't know. Dave, you have a better answer than me?
I just think that, we see things that are circling above the flat Earth. And I think, I don't know, I think you and I might disagree on this, that the ISS is a wandering star on a fast cycle. That's my opinion.
And it might be. I can't say that it's not. Dave, one thing we didn't talk about, but I wanted to talk about, actually I'm going to probably do a video about it, is this whole thing that, came out just recently, maybe half week ago, that Trump offered NASA unlimited funding to get to Mars during his presidency. He said,
scripted or not scripted? Is it him trolling NASA, trying to expose NASA, or is it just another scripted thing to get us all excited?
I'm in between about Trump, and I just don't think he knows the space hoax. And if he does, he may try and get it out this way. But what bigger a sign do you need that these guys went to the moon in 50 years ago and landed there, no problem, and got out and played golf and drove around in a moon buggy? And so now when somebody's offered unlimited funding to send people to Mars, and NASA's response...
Things are so much more expensive. Back then, a phone cost $25. Now an iPhone is like $1,100.
It's not that way.
It costs more to go. And that's why they can't do it.
Oh, things don't get cheaper. Technology doesn't advance, and we don't get more memory now for our buck. Is that how it works?
Maybe,
or Dave?
Maybe not. I don't know.
No, it's certainly funny, though. But, I mean, again, it's certainly funny to hear NASA say, no, even if you gave us unlimited funding, we can't go to Mars. Yet they go around having these camps where people go and they do little, oh, we're going to hold you in this dome for, 2 months so you can simulate being on Mars, all these things. But they admit to the president when he offers them unlimited funding and he says, and they say, no, sorry, we can't do it. That's just ridiculous. Well, what have you been doing for 50 years?
What about all of these kids that are going to school and studying, astrophysics and whatever with the goal to work for NASA or SpaceX? I mean, their goal.
That's like their job.
Their dream job is to work for NASA or SpaceX. I mean, can they a class action lawsuit? Who are they going to sue, though?
No, and it's
NASA's just going to dissolve one day, and you can shave your beard.
Yeah, Dave didn't like my idea. I had an idea where I said, I'm sure people have heard of like playoff beards, or somebody will grow their beard in protest of something. And I said, Dave, let's grow our beards out until we have evidence of the globe. And Dave said, what are we going to do when you look like ZZ Top? I'm like, well, I don't know what we do in that case, but I feel like I could get on TV if my beard got big enough. And they're like, this guy's growing out his beard until NASA dissolves and admit they lied to the world. So I'm actually considering it. But I also know that eventually either I'm going to be tripping over my beard, or I don't know what's going to happen, or maybe I need to move a little bit faster at getting rid of NASA. Who knows?
Or maybe tomorrow morning you'll be able to shave it off.
I don't know. Maybe. You never know. Maybe somebody will show me some proof. I'm sure it will be some building with a condensed bottom off in the distance, and they say, oh, see, well, where's the bottom 2 floors of this building? And then when you point out that the building shouldn't be seen at all, they just run away and call you a moron. So, yeah, I guess I can expect that around the corner. Let's go. We only got 6 more minutes. We got a couple callers. Let's try and nail them out. We are now at the 425 area code. You're on with Jeranism RAW. Who's this?
Yes, Jeran. Always a great show. Listen, 2 points real quick. The first is the first question is for both of you. The second point is more for you, Jeran, because you're you have kind of an interest in the second point. But the first point is we've had 4 years now, and really the birth date of the modern day birth date, I guess, of Flat Earth would actually have to be probably Mark Sargent on Coast to Coast. And I think that happened maybe March of 2015. Hang on, quiet dog. Anyways, my point is that 4 years, we have a mountain of evidence on Flat Earth. What accounts for so many people? I'm talking about so many people, pastors, preachers, everybody. What accounts for this darkness to where there's so many people actually denying it? It's actually very unnerving to realize that all these people with PhDs and all these people in colleges and professors, people who've got the time, pastors, preachers, everybody across the board, what accounts for denying what's a mountain of evidence? Go ahead.
Okay, good question. For me, it's great indoctrination. Scheduled since you were born. And in any movie I watched, you have not just the globe at the beginning, but the globe at the end. Like every movie sets up by subliminally telling you this movie takes place on this sphere with these stars in the background as Universal rolls around. It's really scary as shit though, because these other people, it's all been set up this way. I mean, it's been set up so that those who are taught what they need to regurgitate, those people that can memorize those things, those people get promoted to the highest positions in science, and they get these doctorates and PhDs, and they become professors, and then they teach what they were taught. So, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, I just think it's great indoctrination at every level. I mean, Dave, you have an answer for that one?
Not really. You kind of said it all.
Okay, and then you had one other question. Go ahead.
And the second point is the mud flood and the time frame. We're now finding out about these maps of the Tartarian Empire. We're looking at all these old maps all the way up into 1742. California was actually an island. I mean, all the maps, dozens of them, all the old ones. And then all of a sudden, there seems to be some kind of great event, and Tartaria has basically been scrubbed. And some people say even the timeline is not right, that we could be hundreds of years off. Have you looked into that, Jeran? And what do you think of that whole mud flood Tartarian Empire civilization, which now that we know about flat Earth, we know they can cover up all kinds of stuff, including history. And I'll take my answer off the air, but I just wanted to throw that at you. Thanks so much. Great show. Bye.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. And I do want to do a video on it because I'm totally on board with it. I have a hard time going back and looking at some of these proofs, though, that people are using for the mud flood, just because I think our timeline is so severely screwed up. And I'm somebody who thinks it's not just a couple hundred years. I think it's off by much more than that. I think if you look at the population growth, that we could be as young as a couple hundred years. Really, it's possible. Dave, you have any comment on that before we head out?
I'm with you. Many flat earthers say, we've known, the globe deception is going back 500 years. I don't think it has. I think it's going back 120 years max.
I think really when you start looking at all the books that were around, and you look at the amount of people, and then you understand that people weren't literate, and then you look at the fact that they had the printing press that came around a few hundred years ago. Yeah, anything could be true because they could have put whatever information they wanted in those books. And so we would all believe it. We would all be taught it as history, and it may not, in fact, be true. So definitely keep looking into all that stuff. Keep researching the timeline because I think it's important.
Look what's going on now. I mean, imagine if the power went out for a couple of years. All of these videos, all of this communication, all of this stuff is gone, and no future civilization will ever find it. The only thing they'll find is the Georgia Guidestones and a couple other things. All the books. They'll find a few books, but
they might find that stone circle. They might find that stone circle I sent you the article about, that some guy found a stone circle and then reported it to National Geographic, or somebody who came out with an article about it and how old it was. And then a couple months later, some guy saw it in the news, in the magazine, and sent them a message saying, I built that in the 1990s. They had to retract the whole thing because, again, this is how easy it is for them just to say, oh, this was built in the year 2000 BC, and everybody just goes, oh, great, fantastic. And then you take somebody who's saying, no, I built that. That's my land. You can look it up. I built it in 1990. And
talk about these sediments. These are millions of years old, but meanwhile, there's a tree growing up through the whole thing, which shows that the whole thing was laid down within a day.
Yeah, you mean the layers where the whole tree goes? Yeah. So, guys, appreciate you listening every week as you do. We appreciate it so much. Thank you, everyone. If you want to donate to me, you can do that at paypal.me/Jeran, or you can just find the links in the description, and also check out the Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole channel, which is DITRH. Till next week, guys. It's been fun.
Peace. See you guys. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Dave.
All right, Jeran, later.
Thanks.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like The Christopher Everard Show, The Covert Report with Susan Lindauer, Enemy Within Radio with Tom Barnes, Freaky Friday with The Woo Crew, The Gematria Effect with Zachary Hubbard, America's Evil Genius with Travis Cook, Phoenix Rising Radio with Phoenix, Quantum Connections with Lucky, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117? Or call into your favorite show, toll free at 833-TFR-LIVE. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
The Russia probe, back to work. I'm Ann Cates. Bipartisan legislation will be introduced requiring that a full report be given to Congress and the public on the findings of the investigation into Russian interference in the election and any Trump campaign connections to the Kremlin. Plus, President Trump's former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, will appear on Capitol Hill after all.
Cohen will testify behind closed doors before the House Intelligence Committee on February 8th. The news comes days after Cohen postponed his scheduled testimony before the House Oversight and Reform Committee, citing ongoing threats from President Trump and his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani. Some members of Congress are suggesting that any threats made against Cohen or his family would amount to witness intimidation and have warned the president against interfering with congressional probes. Cohen heads off to prison in March to begin a 3-year sentence after pleading guilty to campaign finance violations as well as lying to Congress. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
Federal employees are back on the job now that the government closure has ended.
A shutdown victim who will be made whole, Glynis Hill, heading to work at the EPA.
Exhilarating knowing that we'll get paid. Now we can get back to work and do the work our mission is to do for the American public.
House and Senate negotiators have been given until February 15th to find a border security funding deal, or else President Trump has said he might force another shutdown.
We don't want another government shutdown. We want a deal that actually addresses border security. It seems like it should be so simple.
Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. Bob Costantini, the White House.
2/3 of the nation will be shivering through Arctic air. Meteorologist Brian Hurley says the bitter cold will be life-threatening.
Low temperatures, not the wind chills, between 15 and 25 to 30 degrees below zero. That would include the forecast low of minus 21 in Chicago Wednesday morning and minus 22 Thursday morning.
On Wall Street, the Dow fell 209 points. I'm Ann Cates.